Ahead on the CFL Report, a special preview of the semi-final matchups, East and West. We'll talk to BC's Larry Donovan and Winnipeg's Mike Riley, the coaches who await the winners. And we look ahead to the 87 Shenley Awards. TSN CFL Report. It's our game around here, brought to you by Carling O'Keefe Brewery. Hi everyone, I'm John Wells. Welcome to the CFL Report, our first playoff edition. But before we deal with the playoffs, there is the latest crisis in Ottawa. And while the situation is definitely serious, reports of the demise of the franchise within 2 weeks do seem a little premature.
I was up in Ottawa last night, had some meetings with the people up there, and was in contact with them today several times. And I think the situation is that they're going to take between now and the next 2 weeks to prepare a strategy plan and a game plan in order to have a football team in Ottawa for the 1988 season. And obviously they're looking at ways and means of how they can operate. And I think the league itself basically has said we're committed to work with the Ottawa Rough Riders to ensure that they operate in the 88 season. And that's what we've spent a lot of time the last few months doing, coming up with our operational cap, which we've agreed to the Board of Governors and our 60-40 gate split, so that they have a lot of homework to do. But certainly in my discussions today and last night, the situation is that they're busy preparing a plan for the 88 season, and they are looking around for more corporate support, more support from the community. But from the standpoint of saying that they have to raise $4 million the next 2 weeks they're folding, I just disagree with that completely.
Well, I didn't say it, and I know that there has been a report that I came out and said we're going to fold in 2 weeks. But that's not the case. I think we still feel fairly confident that with a little bit of work, with some phone calls to see if we can build a foundation of support in our community, that we can make this happen and continue the initiative for 1988.
Maybe Bruce Hillary's alarming statement Wednesday may have sparked some interest. The phone lines at Rough Rider headquarters have been busy ever since. And on Thursday, a personal guarantee from the Ottawa Mayor Jim Durrell, who says that the Riders will definitely be in operation next year. Now to the playoffs. Both weekend games, a repeat of last year's matchups. The Stamps and the Eskimos in the West, the Argos and the Tiger Cats in the East. This time, though, in a one-game showdown for the right to meet the Winnipeg Blue Bombers. More on the road to the Grey Cup a little later on the show. But first, the Shenleys. The first-round ballots have all been counted.
Winnipeg quarterback Tom Clements should emerge as the East's nominee as the outstanding player. The 12-year veteran passed for over 4,600 yards, 35 touchdowns while leading the Bombers to the best record in the Eastern Division. And Clements' competition should come from Edmonton's Brian Kelly. The veteran receiver has had the best season of his 9-year CFL career, catching 68 passes for 1,626 yards and 13 touchdowns. Other nominees include Ottawa receiver Mark Lewis, Toronto slotback Darryl Smith, Hamilton wideout Steve Stapler, Saskatchewan kicker Dave Ridgway, Calgary's flanker Larry Willis, and British Columbia Lions receiver Jim Sandusky. The category likely to be most hotly contested, though, should be Outstanding Canadian. Eastern nominees include Ottawa kicker Dean Dorsey, Toronto linebacker Don Moen, Hamilton slotback Rocky DiPietro, and safety Scott Flagel of the Winnipeg Blue Bombers. While in the West, it's Saskatchewan's Ridgway, Edmonton slotback Marco Sincar, linebacker Bernie Morrison of Calgary, and safety Nelson Martin of the BC Lions. Winnipeg linebacker James West should get the nod as the Eastern nominee in the defensive category. West had a solid season with 7 sacks and 75 tackles. Opposing West should be Saskatchewan's Bobby Jurison. Playing in his first full CFL season, Jurison led the Western Riders with 22 sacks. The rest of the Eastern contenders include Ottawa's Lloyd Lewis, Willie Pless of Toronto, and Frank Robinson of the Tiger Cats. Rounding out the Western hopefuls are Calgary's Ron Hopkins, Edmonton's Danny Bass, and Greg Stuman of the BC Lions. 4 tackles form the Eastern nominees for outstanding linemen. The field includes Kevin Powell of the Rough Riders, Chris Schultz of the Toronto Argonauts, Miles Gorell of the Tiger Cats, and Chris Walby of the Winnipeg Blue Bombers. Saskatchewan's Roger Aldag hopes to repeat as Western nominee, but he'll have to beat out Calgary's Bob Poley, Rod Connup of Edmonton, and BC's Gerald Roper. The odds-on favorite for outstanding rookie is Toronto running back Gil Fennerty. The former Holy Cross star rushed for 879 yards and 12 touchdowns. The rest of the Eastern nominees include Ottawa's Leo Groenwegen, Hamilton's Johnny Jones, and Winnipeg's Ken Petway. While in the West, the top freshman prospects are Saskatchewan's Terry Cochran, Edmonton's Stanley Blair, David McCrary of Calgary, and Kevin Dixon of the BC Lions.
And be with us for the Shenleys on TSN Thursday, November 26th from Vancouver. Still ahead, the Canadian Stars of the Week, our special playoff preview, and Leif Pettersson picks the winners. This is the CFL Report on TSN. Welcome back to the CFL Report. Still ahead, a preview of both weekend semifinals. But before we get there, the Canadian Stars of Week 20 in the CFL. This week's runner-up, Stampeder fullback Tim Petros. Last Friday against Hamilton, the 4-year veteran from the University of Calgary carried 8 times for 48 yards. Petros also made key blocks to spring backfield partner Gary Allen for 131. This all-round effort by Petros helped the Stampeders top the Ticats. TSN's outstanding Canadian from Week 20, Toronto kicker Lance Chomick. Sunday against Winnipeg, the 3-year veteran from the University of Toronto accounted for 19 of the Argos' 20 points, including a clutch 55-yard field goal on the final play of the game to give Toronto a come-from-behind victory over the Blue Bombers. Argonaut place kicker Lance Chomick, TSN's outstanding Canadian for Week 20. And now to the playoffs. In the East, a rematch of 1986, the Tiger Cats and the Argos. The Argos have been hot, and while the Tiger Cats have struggled, they still have the memory of last year's miracle comeback. And this time, it's just a one-game showdown. With more, here's Paul Romanuk.
Well, thanks, John. As far as the situation in Hamilton is concerned, they're talking about a couple of things looking ahead to the game this coming weekend. Number one, they're of course talking about the rather intense rivalry which has built up over the last few years between the Hamilton Tiger Cats and the Toronto Argonauts, and the effect, or perhaps lack thereof, that rivalry will have in the game. Now, number two, they're talking a lot about the return of Coach Al Bruno. Be it to the sidelines or up in the press box, Bruno will be around for the game. His effect will be felt in the dressing room, most definitely in the form of inspiration. And the kind of inspiration he'll provide this time is perhaps a bit of a chip that's been put on the shoulder of the coaching staff.
There's been a survey made, and one of the media members that they gave Coach Smith and I a D for our coaching this year, and they gave Gregory and Glick a higher grade than myself and Ted. I can't understand that.
Neither could most of the players, nor can they quite cope with all the talk of the rivalry. They don't figure it will have a big effect on the outcome of the game. On the contrary, the Ticats figure whichever team can ignore the hype and stick to a game plan will be the winner.
I think if the boys are fired up, we execute the offensive strategies and defensive strategies we already have, that we're going to win. I don't think you have to change anything. I don't think philosophies has to change. I think you have to just do what you've set out to do and not make mistakes.
Of course, mention big game to Hamilton and you will likely get an earful on the positive virtues of defense.
Well, I mean, that's a proven point that championships are often won by defense. They hold them down and you're always in the game.
So that's the situation here in Hamilton Tiger Cat country. With a preview from the Toronto Argonaut camp, here's Mark Jones.
Thanks, Paul. You know, at the beginning of this season, the question mark around Argoland here was the quarterbacking situation. Well, here we are at the end of the season, and Coach Bob Obilovich has 3 quarterbacks on his hand and still faces a tough decision as to which one to start. Well, if you're the coach, you have to be concerned with the fact that the offense failed to score a touchdown last week against Winnipeg.
I've kind of felt like the baseball manager this year, you know, trying to figure out which is the best starter and who to bring in relief, and hopefully the guy that goes in there and plays will do a good job and put points on the board. And if we need one of them coming off the bench, then I hope they're ready to help us win a football game.
Gilbert Renfro threw for over 308 yards against the Bombers and is the likely candidate to get the nod.
I feel really good about it. This will be my first professional playoff game, and I'm looking forward to it. I think I'm going to work really hard this week and get my drops and my steps and everything down so we can put some points on the board. So we're going to have to keep the defense out there so long.
The Argonauts won't need any motivational speeches for this one. They still remember the 1986 Eastern Final.
I think you can't help but pick up on it. I mean, it's in the press and everybody talks about it a lot, but you know, I think our approach has always been that we have to try and prepare tough for everybody, and you know, you can't pick your spots. You got to play everybody tough. So, but the rivalry is definitely there.
There are a lot of new faces in the Argonaut lineup this season, but a lot of the veterans haven't let them forget what happened here last year in the Eastern Division Final, when the Hamilton Tiger Cats literally pulled the AstroTurf out from under their feet. The Argonauts still feel they're a better team, and they hope to prove it on Sunday once and for all. Mark Jones for the CFL Report. Now back to John.
Okay, Mark. The Blue Bombers meet Sunday's winner, and we have head coach Mike Riley on the line from Winnipeg, ready to give us a little insight into the Eastern semifinal. Mike, how do you see the difference in the Argonaut-Tiger Cat matchup on Sunday?
Well, I tell you what, John, I think that both teams will play extremely hard. That's not a problem with either one of them. I think they're both very physical football teams, and really it could boil down to the kicking game. I think that Toronto, of course, has been exceptional lately in their kicking game, and you know, really beat us in that aspect of it in the last ball game. And Hamilton has had their trouble there. They've really moved the ball, and I think have played some good defense, but haven't come through with field goals when they needed them. And of course, that may be changed now. So I think, though, that we could see that come down to who scores some points in the kicking game and who does a good job of executing in that area.
Some key matchups, Hamilton offense versus the Argonaut defense.
Well, I think it's a matter of protection, really, for us. You know, Toronto does an exceptional job of pressure there. They really got to us, really, in the last two games. And if they can protect Porus and give a guy like Stapler and Champion time to get down the field, and of course Rocky's been effective lately too, that's going to be very, very important for him. Also, I think playing against Toronto, if you can get a running game going of some sort, keep them off balance, you're much better off. But protection and giving them time to get to those receivers is a key.
Mike, on the other side of the ball, how do the Ticats shut down the Toronto offense?
Oh, you know, I think Toronto's offense is very sound. They don't make very many mistakes, and I think that if Hamilton can force any kind of turnovers, it'll be a big difference in the game. And it's very hard to do against Toronto, but you know, keep them from getting the big play to a guy like Smith. You know, he's their big play guy, and of course stopping Finnerty and making them turn the ball over once in a while will be very important.
Mike, here's the tough question. Who would you rather meet next week in Winnipeg?
Well, we're just going to be glad to be there, and I don't look forward to playing either of the groups. I think that they are good football teams, and the thing about them is they're very physical and play extremely hard. So, you know, I don't really care which one's going to be there, and you know, we'll look at it, of course, with great interest on Sunday. I think it'll be a great football game, and then on Monday we'll start preparation for whichever team it happens to be.
Thanks for doing this. Good luck in the final.
Thanks, John. It's good to talk to you.
And Lee Pedersen joins me now. Who will Mike Riley be facing in the Eastern Final 2 weeks from now?
No question, lead pipe cinch, Toronto Argonauts will be in the Eastern Final.
You're not counting anything from last year where the Tiger Cats came up and ambushed the Argonauts. I mean, is there no mental attitude that might come into play?
I don't think they even think about that. You know, Hamilton was a pretty good football team last year. They're not the team this year that they were then. And Toronto, on the other hand, is a much better team than they were last year. Some of those guys that were in their first years, like Darryl Smith and fellas like that, are playing much better football. The defense is playing great, and special teams, the kicking game, in all areas, they really outclass the Tiger Cats.
All right, let's look at the X's as Lee Pedersen sees the Eastern Conference semifinal coming up this weekend. The Argonauts favored with X's all down the right side. There's only one even category, and that's passing. And you mentioned, I think, two key areas, Leaf. The rushing game and the special teams game have to favor the Argonauts greatly over the Tiger Cats.
Well, sure. You don't know what the weather's going to be like on Sunday afternoon for this game. So the Toronto Argonauts do have the good running game. Hamilton doesn't, and of course the kicking game is the biggest factor of all in this game. Hank Olisic will outkick the other Hamilton kicker by 15 yards a punt, and boy, that's a lot of yardage. Chomick experienced that field goal he kicked last week to beat Winnipeg can only help his confidence, you know, and if it comes down to that again, I'm sure he'll make the winner. Hamilton's kicking game just a nightmare.
Okay, Leif. Now, Bernie Ruoff may be back, and he will definitely help the Tiger Cats over what they've seen over the last couple of weeks. But don't forget, Ruoff has missed several weeks of action, too. The CFL Western preview after this.
George Reed, Russ Jackson, Tom Wilkinson, Ron Lancaster, Tony Gabriel, Dieter Brock, Warren Moon, Merv Fernandez. The Shenley Awards, where CFL legends are made. November 26th on TSN.
Welcome back to the CFL Report Playoff Edition. Let's get to the Western story right now. Edmonton and Calgary in the Western semifinal Sunday at Commonwealth Stadium. Another rematch from last year, and we have two reports from Alberta. The first from Teresa Hergert with a Stampeder story from Calgary.
Thanks, John. You know, it's been 17 long years. 17 years since the Calgary Stampeders have been able to beat Edmonton in a playoff game. Now, that's a long time in between victories, and the Calgary Stampeders will be looking to break that streak on Sunday.
Yeah, it's going to be a tough one, and we don't expect nothing less out of Edmonton. I think that we're going to go into the game, since we won last week, with a positive note. I think we're still riding on that. I think we're going there and playing very tough ourselves.
Despite two rough games against Hamilton, the Stampeders are healthy and ready for Sunday's game. Harold Holman and Larry Willis should be back, and a banged-up Rick Warman will be ready to start.
Logically thinking that we got to play in their backyard, it's going to be tough. And I know that they want to have another crack at BC, so they want to do nothing but knock us off so they can get in BC and have another shot at them.
This week, Calgary has spent a lot of time working with their special teams. The reason? Henry Gizmo Williams.
Ready for the Gizmo. I mean, in 2 games, I believe he's returned punts for 330-some yards. So that's a very big concern for us.
You know, people ask us, well, what can you do? One thing is just don't punt the ball. Continue to run the offense, score points, kick field goals, and hopefully not in punting situation. But when we do get in a punting situation, it's important, and everybody understands that we got a big job to do as far as covering them.
Calgary's last clash with Edmonton on Labor Day is a bad memory for most Eskimos. Coach Kaharuk would like to duplicate his success. He's looking forward to the game on Sunday.
I think it's going to be excellent example of Canadian Football League football. 2 talented teams. We split during the season. There's a lot of firepower on both offenses. There's a lot of tough playing by both defenses. I think it's going to be a premier football game.
It's been quite a year for the Calgary Stampeders. A bad start, an amazing turnaround, and now a shot at the playoffs. Now, Calgary's not underestimating the Eskimos, but they feel that they've got momentum and confidence on their side. Should be an interesting matchup on Sunday. I'm Teresa Hergert for CFL Report in Calgary. And now with a look at Edmonton, here's Ken Chillibeck.
Thanks, Teresa. Whenever you talk about these two teams meeting, you always think of the rivalry between Edmonton and Calgary. And for this game, it's no different, considering the fact that the two teams split victories in their 2 regular season meetings. So this is the rubber match.
They thumped us pretty good down there on Labor Day and embarrassed us pretty good. When you look at the standings, they may be the best team of the second half of the season. So we certainly know that we're in for a heck of a game, and we've got to prepare for it. It's going to be an all-out war.
Straight in the pocket is Allen.
It's like going into like a fight and say, well, there's no kicking, no biting, no scratching, right? Well, when it comes to playoffs, you know, you put the rules on the shelf a little bit, and because there is no tomorrow.
There's that constant pressure.
War seems kind of drastic, but to play with passion, and I'd never been in a war, and I don't know if I would fight with passion in a war, but I've been in football games, and the intensity is what counts. You know, knowing your job, doing your job, give it everything you have, and whatever happens, happens.
And a good kick to...
If this is war, then Henry Gizmo Williams is one weapon the Eskimos are hoping to make use of. Williams set 2 CFL records for punt returns this year and had a lot of that success against Calgary. 3 of his 4 punt returns for touchdowns came against the Stampeders.
I saw the game they played this weekend. Hamilton ran one back, so I hope I can do the same again.
Giz will be ready. He'll be ready to do his thing, and hopefully he can excite the crowd and get some things done.
And they will rotate them during the...
The Eskimos' running game has finally started to come around, too. It was sporadic in the early part of the season, but in their win over Ottawa last weekend, the Eskimos rushed for 200 yards.
Nelson Jones again. He's into the...
We're prepared to come out and run the ball a little bit more than we did the last time we played them. I think the last time we played them, we only ran 4 or 5 times. I'd like to run 25, 30 times and throw the other 30, 35 times.
Matt Dunnigan didn't play in the Eskimos' final regular season game in Ottawa last weekend. It was a chance, I guess, to get rid of any aches and pains he might have. Now, when the Eskimos lost to BC a couple weeks ago, Matt Dunnigan had only one thing to say after that game. He said, "We'll meet them again." The only thing standing in the way are the Calgary Stampeders. Ken Chilliback for the CFL Report in Edmonton. Now back to Toronto with John Wells.
Thanks, Ken. From Vancouver now, Lions head coach Larry Donovan. His team getting ready to meet Sunday's winner at Commonwealth in Edmonton. Larry, can you give us some insight into what the difference might be in this year's Western semifinal?
Well, one of the main things I believe is quarterbacking. I think Matt Dunnigan and Damon Allen give you a dimension that is just very, very tough on the defense, and the fact that if there's not a receiver open, they can scramble and make things very, very tough for you.
On the other hand, Rick Warman, what does he offer the Stampeders?
He seems to throw the rhythm route extremely good. He's had good success scrambling against us, so we can't deny that fact. But he seems to throw the rhythm route. He seems to be doing things well with the receivers on one side. I think that the pressure has got to get to him, because if not, he will develop quite a problem for him over the middle.
Larry, key matchups. First, Edmonton offense versus Calgary defense.
Well, Calgary's defense is a defense that scrambles hard. They come after you real hard. They do things on the stunning package, and then they back off and just play it, well, vanilla is what we call. And I think that by the mixture of those two things, they will cause some problems for the quarterbacks as far as finding receivers open. But at the same time, when they back off, I think they'll give the quarterbacks from Edmonton a chance to scramble.
And vice versa, the Calgary offense against the Edmonton defense.
Well, the Eskimo defense, their defensive backs are big physical people. They're people that can really put a pop on you when you do catch the football. I think that the receivers for Calgary will have to hang on to the football, because they know they're going to have some heavy contact once they receive the ball.
Larry, who should win Sunday at Commonwealth?
I don't know. I think it's a very, very tough game to call, and I think the coaches feel that way too, from everything that has been indicated to me at this point. I think Calgary is playing very good, putting a lot of points on the board. Edmonton always plays extremely good, their defense-offense combination, and then the special teams. And in this game, the special teams will probably have a lot to say about the outcome. I think the Gizmo, we all know how tremendous he is, but also Calgary has some tremendous people back in the what we call the return department. So I think the Gizmo has a little bit of an edge, though, in that area.
The tough question, who would you rather meet next week in Vancouver?
Oh, no, we won't get into that, because we're trying to do right now with our own football teams, make sure that we've got the things that we control. And that's our own football team improving. Because a football team that improves this time of year can have very, very good success in this championship run.
Larry, thanks for doing this. Good luck in the final.
You bet, John. Thank you.
Okay, Leaf, your chance now to pick the winner in the West, the Stampeders or the Eskimos.
John, I really like the Stampeders. You know, that's the Cinderella story of the season so far. Larry Kuharich, 8-2 in the last 10 games, taking over as head coach. And boy, they play with such a great deal of enthusiasm, and they never get down when they trail in a game. And I think this is going to be the upset on the weekend.
Well, I know you like the Stampeders' running game a great deal, and I can't blame you. We watched them last week, Allen and Petros, and they can move the football along the ground.
And it takes the pressure off a quarterback like Rick Warman, who I'm sure will be quite nervous going into this game. But, you know, you never know what the field's going to be like in Edmonton. It could be a blizzard at this time of the year. And Calgary just does a great job running the football. They trap teams very well. And I think that is one key area that could carry them through in this game. They're evenly matched, though. I mean, Edmonton's got a good team. Good, solid.
I know it's going to be a lot closer in your mind than the Eastern Division final, but let's check out the X's and see exactly how the Eskimos and the Stampeders stack up. The rushing game goes to Calgary, passing game to the Eskimos, front seven to the Eskimos, secondary special teams to the Calgary Stampeders, or at least even in secondary special teams to the Stampeders.
Yeah, I think one of the key areas in this game, too, though, is that Calgary can't let Edmonton have the big play with Stephon Jones and Brian Kelly. You know, if you can control those guys and limit them to they're going to get their normal amount of catches. That's no problem, but they can't give up that big 70-yard bomb or something. Try and keep the receivers in front. And although the Gizmo is one of the great returners of all time, I think that Glenn Harper may punt the ball away from him, and J.T. Hay is excellent under pressure.
All right, Leif Pettersson on the season has a record of 46, 25, and 1, 65%. We'll see how he does in the playoffs, and we'll be back on the CFL Report right after this. A quick final thought. It is playoff time, and in the next 3 weeks, it's a chance for the CFL to showcase what has been an excellent product in 1987. It would be nice if we could forget the off-field problems in the league for a little while to support and enjoy Canadian football.
TSN CFL Report. It's our game around here, brought to you by Carling O'Keefe Brewery.